sign in reverse.
We are going live in a few seconds.
Can't tell. I can't tell from here.
Is that Kymone?
Yeah.
It looks good, Kymone.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Freeman, Kimone Freeman, and then it's
He's looking behind
Freeman.
him at that. We're live. Okay.
We are live.
Hi, welcome to the candidate forum. We'll start with a brief land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the United States of America and Israel are settler colonial states that have embraced the erasure of the original peoples of the land through the violence of resource extraction, environmental desecration, land theft, displacement, family separation, and genocide. It is important to acknowledge the through line of settler colonialism here on Turtle Island and around the world, and its continuing impact on the land that Indigenous peoples have stewarded since time immemorial. We have benefited from that system. We live on these lands today. We are that impact. Today, and for these past 7 endless months, we have had all eyes on Palestine. We recognize Palestinians as Indigenous people with an irrefutable connection to and right to their ancestral lands. We recognize Israel as a settler colonial state that has inflicted a permanent, hostile, and belligerent occupation and apartheid, and continues to inflict immeasurable violence upon the Palestinian people. At this event, and every day, we demand that the US government divest from death. When Palestine is free, so are we. My name is Kelly Merrill, and I'm the Deputy Campaign Manager for Green Party presidential candidate, Dr. Jill Stein. As Jill and I travel around the country for the 2024 presidential campaign, I have the great honor and privilege of meeting the most incredible Greens across the country. We will hear from several candidates tonight for several minutes, and then engage in a community discussion prompted by a Q&A, your questions. This Congressional Candidate Forum highlights some of those amazing individuals and people with whom I have the great privilege of getting to know and working with on this campaign and beyond it. We'll be moving collectively with these candidates to address these issues during the course of their respective campaigns and beyond the election cycle to build a people-powered movement of values, a movement of integrity, and a movement of compassion. Whether supporting housing first, workers' rights, 2S LGBTQIA rights, addressing the school-to-prison pipeline, the prison industrial complex, racism, poverty, the rights of the planet, clean food, air, and water. We assert the rights of the planet, the right to free speech, the right to protest, and to speak truth to power. We demand an end to the bloodshed. We demand an end to the genocide, and no one more vociferously calls for this than the candidate who brings us together in this room here tonight. Multitudes already claim her as their president. To moderate this forum, I'd like to turn it over to the most incredible and courageous truth teller that I know, Dr. Jill Stein, and as others already call her, Madam President.
Thank you. I have the honor of sharing this computer tonight with Kelly as our Deputy Campaign Manager and sharing the road with her as we travel across the country. And we have just, well, we are in New York State right now, in Albany, in fact, wrapping up our petition drive. And I'll just say it's such an honor to be here with all of you, and especially with these candidates who really represent the movement that we are together. Alone, we don't amount to very much, but as part of a movement, we are really unstoppable, and we are all so much, you know, responding to the incredible crisis of this moment, the crisis that impacts our lives, and our children and our families, our communities. You know, we are living this fight and representing the American people. And what we have seen most recently in New York State is an incredible uprising that demands that we have a voice in this election. And it's so clear that when we go around as a presidential campaign, what people are really attaching to is the vision of who we are together, and the fact that we're not just a solo campaign, a voice in the wilderness. We are a part of a movement, and we are running in company with this incredible team who all have such powerful messages and vision and work in the everyday world. It's really such an honor. We very much feel the power and the contribution that all of you are making as we are out there every day talking to voters, encouraging people to sign our petition to get on the ballot. You know, people really want to know that we are not just one campaign, one candidate. We are really a full-fledged political uprising, and it is the candidates who are here tonight who really, you know, embody that and are leading the charge. And we are so honored to be in this with all of you. So with that, I'm going to introduce each of the candidates just very briefly. You can always go to their bios. I'm more interested in hearing from the candidates, and you'll be more interested in hearing the candidates than for me to tell you what their bios say. I'm just going to give you a little bit about what I know of them. And I have had the great honor of working with everyone on this panel previously, with one exception, who I'm meeting for the first time tonight, who I'm very excited about and have heard great things about. But most of the candidates I know from their work, and actually from meeting with their communities together with our campaign. So I'm going to start here just introducing first Chibu Asonye, who is a wonderful candidate that I met recently in St. Louis. She had come to a forum that we were all doing together with the Missouri Green Party. And then and it was wonderful to hear her message, which was so refreshing and powerful as a young person living the dream and really living the crisis of student debt, of medical debt, of dental debt, and just really the hardships that are crushing everyday working people in this country. And Chibu has such a refreshing and positive story to tell, and she's so good at telling it and so engaging. We then went together over to Washington University in St. Louis, where we all stood with the students in that protest, and several members of our campaign then went on to be arrested together. Not everyone, you know, was able to put themselves on the line and go through the full, you know, arrest and jail and assault experience from the police, but we were all sharing this, and you know, all there very much as a team and in spirit together. And it was a really wonderful way to meet Chibu and see her in action and the power of her message. So with that, Chibu, I'm going to turn this over to you for a few minutes. So take it away. Really great to have you here.
Hi, thank you, Jill. That was very kind. Cool beans. Hi, everyone. My name is Chibu Asonye. My full name, for those of you who are interested, is Chibu Asonye. I am Nigerian, for everyone who's been asking, so thank you very much for all the love. I go by Chibu. It's what my parents and my family have been calling me my entire life. I grew up in the city of Chicago. I'm from Illinois, and I'm running for United States House Representative for Illinois District 13. So that's Washington, D.C. Congress. And I am very excited, and I am very passionate, and I'm excited to be a Green because I'm so optimistic about the world around me and the options that I have. I'm also in Illinois. And so I really benefited from, so I grew up with So I really benefit from everything public, from federal grants, from public schools, public parks, and that's also something that's propelling me to continue on building a sustainable future. Growing up in the city, I really enjoyed the public parks, public cities, but I really saw there what middle class is and what it meant. Everyone around me, thank you. Everyone around me made either like $50,000 or less. Although I learned that a lot of my teachers made a lot less than that, which is wild. And now that I'm an adult and I grew up from 27, and now that I'm an adult, I grew up during 9/11, going into war, going into a housing bubble and crash, going into 1 or 2 or 3 recessions. I have siblings who were in college during that time, who were like dealing with all of the consequences of these really big, what I've now learned are like neoliberal policies, and I'm seeing their life being screwed over, and it's just like completed. When they told me when I got to college in 2014 that everything would kind of be figured out by then, right? I didn't take out student loans, but instead I took out credit card debt because student loan is still a big thing that we didn't want. And I worked through college, and yet the people around me who, and yet the same like problems that my siblings face, I'm still facing. And it is constantly feeling the dread of bad choices that I didn't make. And now that I'm old enough to do something about it, I've taken the advice of my elders and done something different. I want a middle class in our country. I grew up with a middle class, small-ish schools, but again, like public parks, you can go to things. All those things I've learned come from federal grants. And so when I see my state, which is in Illinois, a blue democratically held state, fund education less and less, fund infrastructure less and less, and I'm seeing all the good things that I got to experience and the downfalls that my elders experience, and I'm seeing how it's like an inevitable cliff, and it feels like we're going down that cliff. And now that I'm also in my feelings with processing the images that are coming out of Rafah. We had a land acknowledgement earlier, and all those things come together because our country would rather spend money on war than on our children. And my lovely like immigrant parents said that they just want us to be great. They want us to make all this money. And then I learned that a lot of money is $50,000, and a lot of people don't actually make that much money. I don't make that much money now, and I'm an adult. And the whole dream, the American dream, it's not particularly a lie, but it's something that could have been true if we did things differently. It could have been true if we invested in the middle class. It could have been true if we didn't make student loans, or we didn't make colleges so expensive. And so, rounding out, loving Illinois, growing up in the shadow of a lot of war and the promises that were given to my elders, I am now of age, I'm 27, I'm now of age to be in a position where people actually like accept what I say as legitimate and as though I thought through it. So amongst my peers and the people who are elder, I'm now like someone who's capable, and I've had experience of creating policy and seeing the uphill battle that has been chosen. We need middle class investment, we need student loan forgiveness, but we need election reform. In Illinois, what I'm really facing right now is one of the hardest things, is getting on the ballot. So Illinois is one of the hardest states to get on the ballot. For me to get on the ballot for United House of Representatives for Congress, I need to get over 12,000 verified signatures. And this weekend, my team and I were taking stock of where we at and how we can do things moving forward. And it dawned on me as a first-time candidate that the machine is working exactly how it's supposed to. And this entire election cycle has been working exactly the way it's supposed to. And I'm so happy I'm agreeing, because I know that as I complain and as I have my feelings, I'm being met with people who understand and people who get it. And I'm so happy that as first time candidate, I have that, like, that bubble and that space. And so I'm here for election reform, student loan forgiveness, doing everything in a way that focuses the middle class. But also my last story is healthcare. I need healthcare for all. A lot of the people in my community are either underinsured, or because they have multiple part-time jobs, or they have really high, in Illinois, we have really high out-of-pocket costs. So people aren't actually utilizing the insurance that they have. And working for the state, it's still getting worse. Like, the healthcare is getting worse and worse and worse. I really want to build up a future where where the things that we've been fighting for can actually come about. And I'm seeing that in the way I'm doing this election and trying to get on the ballot and the signature access. It's been so daunting, and it's meant to be daunting. But I'm happy that I have the Green Party and seeing other people who've done it more than once to keep me in my optimism. And so, yeah, that's Illinois 13 for you right now.
Thank you so much, Chibu. Thank you for sharing your really powerful story and your very powerful vision. And I just want to remind people that they can find you at chibuforcongress.nationbuilder.com, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And, please go check out Chibu, support Chibu. Chibu is an amazing, straight out of the starting gate here, running full bore, sounding incredibly well-informed, compelling, persuasive. And, you have a very bright powerhouse future ahead of you as a public servant. And I would just love to see that advancing. So let's keep it going. Thank you so much, Chibu. Next on our list, I want to introduce our very own Justin Paglino. Justin is the field director for our campaign. And Justin, like me, is someone who went from clinical medicine. He is a trained medical doctor in practice for 10 years, and then moved from clinical medicine to political medicine to really take on the mother of all illnesses, that is our sick political system that we need to fix so we can get to all the other things that are actually killing us. And it's just been such a pleasure and an honor to work with Justin, who really stops at nothing and does everything. And he's running his own campaign at the same time he's being a field director in our campaign. And I think that just speaks volumes about his boundless energy and skills, and just his amazing capacity as a team player. It's really such a pleasure to work with Justin. And I just want to mention, we did an event together in Connecticut. He is a candidate for Senate in Connecticut, running against Chris Murphy. And we were doing an event in his district for the presidential campaign. But, we let it be known that Justin is running for Senate in that district, and they were ecstatic because they have been calling Chris Murphy every day. Every day they have called him. This whole collection of Arab Americans, Southeast Asian, basically Muslim Americans, who are extremely distraught about the genocide, and who are very active and have gotten total radio silence from their Senator Murphy, who's foreign relations, I think, is like one of his committee assignments, and he
Mhm.
won't talk to them about it, which again just underscores why it is so important that we are representing the American people here who otherwise don't have a voice. So I'm just really excited to be working with Justin and to see him, connecting with his base and how grateful they are to have him in the race. So with that, Justin, take it away.
Oh, thank you, Jill. And, likewise, it's just been such an amazing honor to have the chance to be working with you. And you've always been such an inspiration to me. And, when I voted for you back in 2016, I didn't realize that I would be working for you someday. And it's been just, amazing where my life has led me and where my course has left me. And like you said, at some point, I made a change in my life. I decided to move from clinical medicine to political medicine. I saw all of these grave illnesses in our society and in our world that I just knew needed a political fix. We need better governance. We have too much influence of basically profit-making interests that have captured our government and have misdirected it away from the will of the people and towards their own interests. And it's an old story. I mean, it's always been a problem in politics, but it is really a problem on steroids right now across the board. I'll just say that, coming from a medical background, one of the issues that really got me motivated to want to run for office was single-payer healthcare, Medicare for all, because I believe strongly that we all deserve health care, and I know that our society has the wealth to provide health care for all of us. And I also know that it would actually save money, that so much waste is going into the profit structure of our health insurance and other aspects of our healthcare system. But certainly in our health insurance industry, we are spending way more than we need to be spending. And our healthcare is among the most expensive, if not the most expensive in the world. And our outcomes are not the best in the world, especially when you consider how many of us are uninsured or underinsured, which is vast, swaths of the American public. And when I decided to run for Congress in 2020, this was a centerpiece issue of mine because my opponent in the 3rd Congressional District in Connecticut, Rosa DeLauro, she's now chair of the House Appropriations Committee. She's been in office for 32 years. She's in a very solid, safe Democratic voting district. She always gets reelected, but she has no accountability from the left because in our two-party system, people see her as a better alternative to whatever Republican is running. And so they support her. And no one even calls her out for not supporting single-payer healthcare because who's going to do it? The Republican's not going to do it. And she rarely faces a primary challenge. And when she does, the weight of the Democratic Party power apparatus comes in to help support her. So I decided I was going to put Medicare for all on the ballot because that is the reform we need for our healthcare system. We need, it will save money. It will save, according to the Congressional Budget Office, over $500 billion at least a year. And so overall, the cost would be less. And the cost would be distributed more fairly in a progressive taxation manner among the American people. If I could design the system myself, I would fund it with a progressive income tax because that's the kind of tax I believe in, one where the wealthier pay more as they can afford to. So I learned quickly, I had been a Democrat my whole life, a progressive Democrat, a frustrated progressive Democrat, tired of compromising my values when I vote. I finally made the jump and in about 2018, 2019, decided that two-party democracy is no democracy at all. It's not a good system. It's not an acceptable system. One of our second president, John Adams, said it would be the greatest political evil under our Constitution to have a nation divided into two great political parties. he foresaw that this would not be a good outcome, and here we are. And so I did a lot of thinking, how do we get out of this trap of lesser evil voting, people not voting for what they really want? I heard Howie Hawkins say around the same time, if you don't vote for something, you'll never get it. And I thought, this is just a disastrous, unrepresentative system. And we need to expand into multi-party democracy. We need to have people being able to align their values with the party that they feel suits them and to support that party. And I learned about ranked choice voting. I learned about how Australia has had ranked choice voting for over 100 years, similar in Ireland. And then there's many European systems that have parliamentary democracy. So they have many parties. They have a more proportional representation system, but we don't. And it's really at the root of a lot of our problems, because if we can't hold, say, this Democratic Party accountable from the left with a party to the left of the Democrats, they keep drifting right. And that's exactly what's happened. They've kept on drifting right. They more and more are supporting economic policies that do not favor the disadvantaged, that favor the advantaged, that favor the elite. And people are getting left behind, and life is becoming more and more unaffordable. Healthcare is unaffordable. Education is unaffordable. And our energy system is designed by oil companies, coal companies, fracking companies. Our foreign policy is dictated by military industrial, contractors and interests, Wall Street interests that have a desire to expand our economic their customer base by opening up markets, or to control the economic systems in other countries so that they can benefit, so they can basically profit off of what is really economic empire in the United States. And this is all driven by financial interests that are now bankrolling both major parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. And so until we break out of this system and get people to feel safe voting for what they really believe in, we're going to continue to go down a bad road when it comes to people's needs, economic needs, healthcare, and our climate. I mean, we've been breaking records months in a row for global temperature, average sea surface temperature. Things are not going well, and U.S. oil exports are breaking records as well. After we had this president elected who said, "Oh, I'm going to stop all drilling on public land," and then he is breaking all kinds of records that Donald Trump set for drilling on public lands, and we have. And then when it comes to war and peace, we are now in the middle of, we're 8 months now into one of the most horrific, prolonged periods of unjustifiable violence that I've seen and in my lifetime, and it's just been unbearable. I think I'm kind of living through the trauma of that every day, and it needs to stop. And Chris Murphy has been supporting it. He doesn't support Medicare for all. He needs to be challenged. And so that's why I'm working hard to get on the ballot, so that people who want to fix the climate crisis, to get an economic bill of rights, to stop American empire, to stop the genocide, to free Palestine, to get health care for everybody, to get ranked choice voting, so that those folks can vote for all those things. Because if we don't vote for those things, we know they're never going to happen. So thanks, everybody. And I appreciate your support. I am trying to get on the ballot in Connecticut. And if Jill gets on the ballot, I will be on the ballot too, because both our names are on the same petition.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin. And can you remind people what website, what's your URL for people to find out more and support your campaign?
Well, it's justinforall.org. I'm having some temporary problems with domain transfer, so it's down right now, but they can follow me. I'm on Twitter all the time, justinforall2 with the number 4, justinforall2. And I'm perhaps somebody can drop my TikTok in the chat and my Facebook too. But I'm going to get that issue resolved soon. And you can email me at justin@justinforall.org. And I also have an antidote link that I see is in the chat now, so folks can contribute to my campaign as well. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so very much, Justin. and we will continue on with our work on a daily basis. It's great to be working with you. And now I'm going to bring on Chester Todd, who is a candidate for Congress in the 1st Congressional District in Wisconsin. We met Chester at a forum that he had organized in Racine, Wisconsin. This was several months back, and it was an amazing forum. I think he was just launching his campaign at the time, and he had brought together some very powerful activists and advocates to discuss, critical issues from jobs to reparations, to the school to prison pipeline, was a major focus, healthcare, just the whole spectrum of issues that people are struggling with. And he had a number of people from different political perspectives who were there, of various ages, and he just did a masterful job of bringing the community together and of pushing the envelope in the community as, I don't know, maybe the first person to run as a Green there, or maybe not, because I think your campaign manager had run as a Green previously, but that was some time back. And I don't think there have been recent candidates, and it seemed like Chester was basically introducing the community to a political party that would actually work for the community, instead of what Chester described as the Democratic candidates parading through the district when it was election time, and then promptly forgetting about the district after the election. So with that, let me turn it over to you, Chester. And again, thank you so very much for being here tonight.
All right, and thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank David Schwab, because he was my first contact a couple of years ago with the Green. And I began to get interested enough to run. It's been a long, hard road. Some of the problems that I've encountered in the 82 years I've been on the earth have been self-generated. But once I came out of that in 1987, in 1989, rather, excuse me, I went to, I was 47 years old. I went to a vocational college. I got a GED. 11 years later, I had a master's degree. It's been hard. I've been working hard. And then in 1990, I woke up to the Democrat, because like Justin said, I had been voting Democrat all them years. And all of a sudden, I realized this is not working. It's not only not working for me as a Black person, it's not working for anyone in the country, even those who praise the party and who praise the government. They look like people are not looking. Number one, here's something that really upsets me. People say, well, the government did this and the government did that. We are the government. And we have a right to change it. We're a right to our opinions. And I want to know where the democracy is. I'm left out. I'm left out. Hey, I never told anyone in the government to take my money and commit genocide upon innocent children and women and old folks. I never told anyone, the people I voted for to put in Congress and the Senate, I never told one of them to take my money and do that with. Now, the state of Wisconsin, I really appreciate Dr. Stein coming to Wisconsin. She's like a flower in a bunch of weeds, to come here to let people know Listen, this state here is the #1 state, worst state in the nation for Black residency. Within this state, in the southeastern section, there are 2 cities, Racine, where I live, and Milwaukee, that are ranked #1 and #2 worst cities in the nation for Black residency. Milwaukee, Wisconsin is the #1 residential segregated community in the nation. So we are suffering here. We have most Blacks in the state are located in the southeastern sector, which is totally ignored by the government, or by the governor, pardon me. But all of a sudden, the election year is coming up. We're getting this governor who previously has ignored us, all of a sudden is making Black appointments to benches and to all type of commissions and everything. And now I go through this, which probably I'm preaching to the choir, but as we see what this is that same old bamboozlement that the Democrats throw in front of everyone, and especially minority communities. They come into our community every 2 to 4 years, collect political capital on false pretense, and never give us a receipt stamp paid in full. I am sick and tired of this. Now I am, as Dr. Stein sat at the table with me and my protege, Xavier Goldman, who is ready to go. I'm 82 years old. I won't be around that much longer, but I am training. I am struggling to train people, not train, I'm sorry, that's a bad word to use, but to introduce young Black people, young white people, and young Hispanics, anyone, to the Green Party philosophy. It's the only one that counts. We are the solution because we're the only alternative to this earth being around for a while, to being livable. School to prison pipeline, give you an example. In my city, K-4 kids are being suspended. That automatically puts you a stamp on you. So now, therefore, you're in that system. It's ridiculous. No one says anything about it. We just let it go. Our school board here for years has been all white. All white. Now, we've recently got a young Black lady on the school board. This is like living in the 1960s or the 1950s, honest to God. And I don't know why people don't wake up. I realize for those of us who are poor, whether we're Black, white, or Hispanic, or whatever, the daily grind keeps you from being so politically informed. And I take that as my job. I'm retired for the 4th time, so I take it as my job to inform people on that. Someone said, now is the time. It is. I think we all see that there are people right now across this nation that are tired of a 2-party system, who collude. They don't fool me. I don't know how many other people see it, but that presidential commission, debate commission, and the Democrats and the Republicans are the reason the Green Party can't get on the stage. So, absolutely, to me, both parties, Republican and Democrats, are fighting for 2 things: power and money, which in reality is the same thing. Money and power. These are capitalists, and they're ruining our lives. They're ruining our lives. And we're setting back, steady pumping money to them and letting them do whatever they want to with our money, because they claim they're the government, we're the government. And they should listen to us. Hey, I have no doubt in my mind that one day we will succeed to show people, and they will understand this just isn't working for us. It is not working for us. Healthcare, if I may extend just a minute. In my city, they took the hospitals out of the middle of the inner city and moved them out to where you got to catch a bus or you got to drive 10 miles or whatever. It's ridiculous that we sit back and let this happen. I don't mind being the old voice. I take the criticism. I got thick skin. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to be a Green Party member until I'm no longer here. God bless all you people.
Thank you so much, Chester. We are so fortunate to have you and the incredible power of your intellect, your smarts, your wisdom, your experience, and your fearlessness and your courage. So thank you for leading the charge, Chester. We are so honored to have you in the Green Party and running as a candidate. Will you tell us what is the status of your ballot drive now? I think you need 1,000 signatures, if I'm not mistaken.
We need
How is that-
1,000.
Yeah, how's it going?
Informed by my campaign manager, Mr. Pete Karras, who is a wonderful person who has worked diligently.
Yes,
Let me
shout
tell
out.
you, all credit to Mr. Karras. But I think we are very close, if not over the 1,000 mark. But of course, we want to get up around 1,400, 1,500.
When's the deadline? When is your deadline?
The deadline is either the 1st of June or the 3rd.
Okay.
I think the 3rd. We have the 3rd to get those in.
Okay, so anybody who's in striking distance of Racine, consider dropping in and lending a hand, or if you
Yeah.
can make a contribution. It all, it all helps enormously, and we're pulling for you, Chester. Very excited about your having a voice and making all of our voices bigger for the work that you do. Thank you so very much. Now we're going to turn to Michael Dublin, and I'm very excited to be meeting Michael tonight. Michael is a candidate for U.S. House of Representatives in North Carolina, District 2, and he is a husband, father of 4, and grandfather of 6, 2 more on the way. He went back to school at some point and decided to become a teacher so that he could help, especially people who were marginalized like he was, and to help them have a hope for the future. His issues range from universal health care, livable wages, healthy planet, and an end to the capitalist oppressive war machine. Sounds like you're speaking for us all here. Michael, go ahead, take it away. Very glad to have you here tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Stein, and everyone else is here. I briefly met you, Dr. Stein, when you came to Matt Ho's campaign meeting last cycle. And so I was a volunteer working for Matt Ho's campaign. So, and I appreciate you. Over the summer when things happened, with the Green Party, and I was concerned about who would step in and run for president. And so I appreciate you for stepping up and filling that and leading us in this stance against oppression. And I really do. And I thank you so much for that. I could just talk about the campaign. In North Carolina, we have ballot access, and that's largely due to the fight that we had getting Matthew Holt on the ballot last cycle. We went through our battles with the Democratic Party. When we had enough signatures, when we needed 14,000, we had over 22,000, and the Democrats did their thing and tried to intimidate people to take away their signatures and invalidated signatures by the thousands. And but eventually we did prevail. Now that was at a cost because we didn't get on the ballot until I believe it was August or September of that year. So Matt had to run a very abbreviated campaign. And other people who wanted to run like me, I was not able to run because of the resources that was used in fighting that battle. And I totally understand the NC Green's party's decision on that. But I do have ballot access. We're on the ballot now. So we have a candidate for governor as well, Wayne Turner, and I am running for the U.S. House of Representatives for Congressional District 2, which is most of Wake County, which includes Raleigh, Garner, Cary, and areas like that around Raleigh. It is a Democratic safe district. At least it was redistricted to be that. The incumbent is Deborah Ross, and she is a middle of the road Democrat who pushes quote unquote access to healthcare, which is not real healthcare as we know. She has not called for a ceasefire, will not call for a ceasefire, and even before October 7th, she voted along with every other delegate from the state of North Carolina to say that Israel is not a racist state. And so she also takes large donations from IPAC. So she's definitely someone who is a centrist Democrat who is a major player in a duopoly. And so that's the person I'm running against. There's a Republican, Alan Swain, in this district. But as I said, they redistricted District 2 to make it even more Democratic safe district. Because we have in North Carolina a supermajority in the state house and in the state Senate for the Republicans. So they basically, gerrymander the districts so that they're predicting that there will be 10 Republican representatives winning and 4 Democrats. So it's a Democratic safe district. But I'm looking forward to it, the challenge. Looking at me, I'm not a career politician. I'm a middle school teacher, a lifelong learner, someone who has been involved in politics since youth. My grandmother, made sure we were involved, knowledgeable, members of the NAACP in the 1970s, protesting against the dumping of PCBs in marginalized communities in North Carolina. I was involved with Greenpeace in 1990s. I've always been protesting against police violence in North Carolina. As a kid walking home from football practice, I would often get stopped by the police. And there's been times, I've had the policeman's baton around my neck and, from my time, my youth. And so then this is long before the Black Lives Matter protests. So, having grown up in the deep South, even growing up in Raleigh, which is one of the largest cities in North Carolina, a lot of my family are in the more rural areas, such as Smithville. And so growing up, I knew about the redlining in Raleigh. There are certain parts of Raleigh where I couldn't live. And going down to visit family in Smithville and Johnston County, there were big billboards that said home of the Ku Klux Klan. So, and these weren't little bitty signs; these were big billboards on the side of the highway. I grew up with people like Jesse Helms in office from North Carolina, outright racist policies, and anti-women and anti-gay. He was just anti-everything except for colonial powers. And so growing up under that, it was a challenge, but I also had the tenacity from my grandmother to stand up and do the right thing. And so standing up has been something that I've always done. And when it's time to join action for doing what's right, I've always been there. I wasn't an organizer. I was more of just a foot soldier that showed up. And so I was one of those people, when police shootings in Raleigh, unjustified shootings, I would be involved in the marches from, like I said, 1980s, 1990s. And so I was a registered Democrat for many years. My grandmother was a Democrat. Growing up, she, if we ran into the governor at that time, Jim Hunt or Rufus Edmonston, they knew her by name because she was involved with the Democratic Party, that deeply. And she wasn't rich. She grew up sharecropping. She was a poor woman, but she believed in education and she believed in being involved. And she stood up for herself. And my family members and friends tell me I got that from her. And so that's why I'm running. I really, until the last 4 or 5 years or so, I had no intention of being a politician. I was out running, my son out running on the trail, the Neuse River Trail. And he said, well, Pops, when you get done teaching, what you gonna do? Something easy or something hard? And really, I want to do something easy because I've been involved in the struggle for a long time. And sometimes after years and years and years, you kind of get wore out. But in my heart, I knew that I wasn't going to do something easy. As I said, my grandmother, and she instilled too much in me and my family. And, just looking around and being involved in politics, as far as a teacher and teaching students, I always encourage them to get involved and run for office and just stay involved. And that's why I'm really encouraged to see young people here like Chibu, because I'm not trying to get in office and for 20 years. I want to get in and open the door for somebody else, for some young person to come behind me and continue to stand to power, and we can make changes. And so I'm encouraged by seeing the younger people. I'm encouraged by seeing the older people. That gives me the impetus to keep fighting and keep standing, even in times when I get tired and want to quit. I can look around at my children and grandchildren and my students and say, I can't quit. Okay, we deserve better. From my youth, when I learned about government and how it works, and then I found out that everybody didn't have health care. And I was, what? It just did not make any kind of sense to me. I just assumed that everybody had health care. I mean, we got the money. I knew that. Looking around in this society, there's plenty of money. What in the world? And that's when I started to learn about the greed of pharmaceutical companies, and I actually think it's worse now because I found this out. It was about like 1980, and I believe it's worse now. And I was shocked. I didn't understand it at all because at that time I didn't fully understand capitalist greed. So I had just learned about how the government works, and it would be much later before I learned about capitalist greed. Good night, man. All right, so I'm sorry. I had to hug my grandson. And when people, as I got older, and working, and not having enough health care, and knowing people in my family didn't have health care, and I'm talking about working people, and I saw firsthand the struggle, and I knew firsthand because I was struggling myself, and I said, man, something at some point has got to change, and I really thought that the Democrats would get it done at some point. At some point in the 80s and 90s, I thought the Democrats would get it done at some point, and I was at a march In fact, there was
Just a 1 minute signal, Michael, if you
a
could.
1 minute.
Yeah.
And someone said there's no difference between the Democrats and Republicans. And at that time, I didn't really understand it, but I started paying attention more, and more disappointment from the Democrats. And finally, I did go unaffiliated about 16 years ago. I didn't tell my grandmother, but I did. And then lately, I started looking around, hanging out, learning about the Libertarians, the Green Party, which I knew about. And when I looked at the Green Party, the pillars, and it's like it was just a match in heaven. And I love it because I can be me. I don't have to pretend to be something that I'm not, because I am Green Party. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Really wonderful to welcome you to the Green Party. It's so great to have you here and running for office and bringing your wisdom to it. I'm going to jump right into our next candidate and your website, Michael. It is Dublin. I saw it here a moment ago.
Dublin for Congress.
Great. DublinForCongress.org. Okay, great. So
we also have Twitter and email.
Wonderful. So please check out and support Michael's campaign. Thank you. And then I'm going to jump right into Jason Call, who is our campaign manager, even as he is running for Congress in the, I forget, Washington 2nd Congressional District. And Jason is unstoppable. I don't know how he does it. I think he doesn't sleep at all at night. He is nonstop, and a real challenge for all of us in the campaign to keep up with. And he's basically running 2 campaigns. I think, he made the change over in his college years. He had grown up in a religious conservative family. And I think he just began to wake up to anti-war issues. I think it was Iraq, if I'm not mistaken. But correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Iraq the first time around, Desert Storm, 1990. Yes.
The first Iraq. Okay. And there's been no going back ever since. And Jason did a 180 from where he started, and is just, a very incredibly ethical, thoughtful, compelling, persuasive, well-informed activist across the board. And it is just such an honor to have him on our team, to be working with him, and to be supporting his campaign. So take it away, Jason.
Thank you, Jill. I do want to make a little correction. It wasn't a religious conservative background. It was just a basic conservative upbringing from my father's military service, and it was I always say my parents were Reagan Republicans, and that never set well with me. So
were you not also? I thought you had been kind of to the Bible.
Well, I know the Bible because I grew up in England, and we took religion class in England. So England has a state religion, Anglican, and we read the Bible as part of our daily studies in school. That was a normal thing in England. So I know the Bible pretty well, and I was raised a Catholic. But as soon as I took my first communion, I said, "Am I done? Can I go now?" So that's where I am with religion, but I fully support the freedom of religion 100%. So I appreciate that, Jill, and it's an honor, really the honor of my lifetime, to be working for this campaign, because in this moment in history is so critical, and so the fact that we have a lane to really challenge the duopoly, challenge the empire. I kind of lost exactly what Michael said right before, but about leaving the Democratic Party and never looking back, because I was even though in my younger years I had voted for Ralph Nader and had been an anti-war activist, I felt like George Bush was so horrible, And, you know, I was out in the streets protesting the Iraq War in 2003, you know, with my kids in my backpack, and was so horrified that he was reelected that I said, you know, I'm gonna join the Democratic Party just so we can get rid of Bush. And of course, as usual, they put up a completely, you know, milquetoast, stand for nothing candidate like John Kerry. And I was originally, you know, a Dennis Kucinich supporter and a Howard Dean supporter, and wanted that kind of fire and energy in challenging the system. And who do we end up with? We ended up with John Kerry. And then when George Bush got reelected, I actually left the country and went to, I was a high school math teacher, was a math teacher for almost 20 years, no longer in the biz, but you know, I left the country and went to do some international teaching, ended up in Cairo, Egypt, teaching. So I have been vehemently opposed to the warmongering of both parties. I was horrified at how the Democratic Senate abdicated, or Democratic House and Senate abdicated their responsibilities to declare war and handed them right over to George W. Bush so that he could make war on Iraq. As we know, the lies about weapons of mass destruction, we know it was a war for resources, as they always are, as is the proxy war in Ukraine, essentially a war for resources, as is the war in Gaza. It's imperialist war, colonialist war. And, you know, just as a matter of, you know, what are the priorities in my campaign, I would say that the number one priority now is ending the war in Gaza. Just like you know, Dr. Stein's campaign, we have to stop this genocide, because if we allow this to continue, it has drastic implications for all of us for the rest of the future. And there's more on the plate. You know, not just genocide in Gaza. There is genocide in many places in Africa, in the Congo, in Sudan, in Ethiopia, in Asia, and all of these are, you know, essentially exploitative, colonialist genocides that are based in just this resource extraction and global hegemony that is perpetrated by the United States and Western powers. And I think we have to come to that realization. And when you realize the history of this country built on the genocide of the indigenous people here, and the transatlantic slave trade, and the long history of the oppression of Black people in this country, you really understand how we could still be here, because we have never had our reckoning with those historic crimes. And I think one of the first things that I would want to do as a congressperson in support of a Stein administration is make sure that this country comes to that reckoning, so that we can actually move forward with peace and justice and humanity for all people. So that's, you know, that's one of the things that I am focused on. Also, as has been mentioned by our other candidates here, the climate situation is intensely upon us. I was just reading today that another massive 14-kilometer iceberg has broken away from the West Antarctic ice shelf. So we see climate collapsing, ecosystems collapsing all around us. It's going to have implications, and while I say that the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is and in other places is really the most important thing that we need to put an end to immediately, we have to recognize that all of these situations and really the life and the future of, you know, people who aren't directly impacted by the genocides that are going on, just everyday Americans going about their lives. And when I say that, I don't mean to like minimize it. Like here in the United States, we are not, you know, like personally directly impacted. We're not having bombs rain down on us. But what is happening, what is coming with the climate future is going to impact everybody. It's going to impact people in Bangladesh when Bangladesh floods and 300 million people have to go somewhere because their entire country is underwater. Those are the things that are going to start impacting us, and people need to wake up for it. I feel like we're gonna be living in a radically different world. As little as 5 years from now, simply because of the effects of climate. It's going to affect our social constructs. It's going to affect our political constructs. And one of the things that I think is most important for the political left, which I believe the Green Party is sort of the spearhead of, is that we need to show people the strength of this movement, that we have solutions, that our solutions are based in humanity and in justice, not injustice, but in justice, and that we have the organization and the leadership to lead people collaboratively into a better future, because these duopoly parties do not care. They do not care about us. The wealthy are building bunkers. They probably know, they read the data, they read the reports, and they are using their vast wealth to protect themselves for the future. I know that sounds very conspiratorial, but you know it's happening, that they plan to ride the future out behind walled bunkers. It's not that much of a conspiracy to think that these people in the ruling class don't care about us, because that's the reality of our politics and our economics right now. So we have to take control of this moment. The candidates that I'm here with in this room are wonderful people. I hope everybody in the chat and watching us live, wherever you may be watching us, will support these candidates in their fight against whoever they're running against, Republican or Democrat, because it really doesn't matter at this point. We've got to get better voices in Congress. So if you're replacing a Democrat or you're replacing a Republican, you are standing for something better. And I'll tell you, for my part, the guy that I am challenging in is a 12-year Democrat seeking his 13th term, one of the most conservative Democrats in Congress. His biggest funder last year was AIPAC. His biggest funders historically have been the war machine and the fossil fuel industry. He takes a ton of lobbyist money. He's one of the most like I said, one of the most conservative Democrats in the House. And I have a good, if I can get past the primary, which is August 6th, then I can beat this guy down the stretch. I have no question that I can beat him. So my real race right now is on August 6th. Where Washington State has its primary. This is the third time I've run this race. It's the first time as a Green. My prior two races, I did run as a Democrat, got over 30,000 votes both times, came in third place, and Washington has what's called a top two primary, and it just means however many people file for the seat, the top two vote getters move forward. Well, I've gotten third place, and a very close third place twice in a row, and so if I can, I don't want to lay all of my hopes on, the issue of Gaza, but it's, it's front and center for me because it has to be. And I'm hoping that it is front and center for the voters in my district also. And they recognize that the guy I'm running against has been on the wrong side of history and that I'm on the right side of history. And so if I get, again, second place in the primary, I can go on to be elected in November. So I appreciate it very much. My website is callforcongress.com. I'll put it in the chat, or George is putting it in the chat. My good friend Georgia, who is also our fundraising director on the campaign, and who has been my good friend for the last 8 years locally, but I've known Georgia for 20 years. So I appreciate everybody's support, and I'll end it right there, and we can move on to the next wonderful candidate. And I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Let's win this year.
Thank you so much, Jason. Bravo. Bravo to all of these powerhouse candidates. We are unstoppable together, and this is so much what America needs across the board. So, support all of these candidates, please, to the extent that you can. Check out their websites. This is what really is changing America across the board. Let's keep it up. Last but not least, I'm going to turn it right over to Kimone Freeman, who is an artist, an activist, and a journalist, and one of the most persuasive advocates I know on a whole slew of issues, but especially his own stories around Medicare for all and healthcare as a human right. Kimone's story is one of just sticks with me in a really powerful way. And he's just a master of all trades, actually. He's a master of all trades and does so many things. I met Kymone, I think it was in 2012, in my first presidential run, where he was doing a live broadcast at some event. It might have been an environmental fair or something. I don't remember, but I think we did an interview on the spot. And
It was the Green Festival.
It was the Green Festival. Okay, there you go. And I was just really impressed that there's this kind of community force for Washington, D.C. Oh, and yes, he is running for D.C. And to demand real democracy for DC, which does not have actual representation, does not have voting representation in Congress, and needs it, deserves it, and he's been an advocate for it, and just a complete community force. So I'm so excited about this race and his ability to challenge an incumbent that has also been around for decades, who started off with a lot of fire, but has kind of become a cheerleader for the Democratic Party as usual. So with that, take it away, Kymone, and thank you so very much for being in the race.
Yes, thank you. Kimone Freeman, that's Freeman, the number 4, Congress.com, Washington, D.C. I represent We Act Radio, independent media outlet in Washington, D.C. on the radical side of Martin King Avenue. Unfortunately, since we start flying a Palestinian flag on the roof of our building, our server mysteriously keeps going down. So we're offline right now. Hope to be back up tomorrow. So try us again. But this is what we're up against, the things that we do. Baba Todd said something about, that, we're preaching to the choir. Well, Dick Gregory told me in our studio that, the choir needs practice, And so let me give you guys some artillery to help you out with some of these debates that you have, explaining yourselves about how voting third party was going to ensure Trump victory and these things. Imagine a real democracy telling people who they have to vote for, paper or plastic, genocide or fascism. I prefer a real villain as opposed to a fake hero. And the definition of insanity is doing the same exact thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. So we are standing at an inflection point in this country. I think that we have an opportunity for the largest third-party turnout in the history of this country. If we can just simply educate people that sometimes you can win an argument by making a concession. Oh, a third party can't win. Okay, I concede that under the current political system in America, a third party doesn't have a great chance of winning a general election. But that's because of the electoral college, and you should have some smoke for that. But all we need is 5% of the national vote to break this two-party political system. 5%. And if Jill numbers come up and there's a three-way race and they split in the war vote and there's going to be an actual anti-war support, then maybe we can just flip tables like Jesus' election and take home the title. But these things are within the realm of reality if we are bold enough to imagine it and pursue it. The first time I voted is in 1990, first election I ever voted, because I was up until that point, I didn't believe in the political system. I hadn't seen enough to convince me to participate. And the first election I voted in was an election that was indeed stolen. If there's ever was an election stolen in our lifetime, it was 2000 when George Bush's brother, the governor of Florida, handed him the electoral votes of his state. The Supreme Court handed him the White House, and Al Gore submitted without a fight, and that disgusted me. And so the one time I vote a Democrat, this is what I get. So the next time around, 2004, I was working for Ralph Nader. It took a war for me to get up and do something. That's when I became involved. I was hired by the Native campaign. I drove a corporate crime buster vehicle in New York City for a couple of months that I stayed there working on his campaign. The first time that I ever spoke publicly was on the behalf of Ralph Nader's peace campaign in 2004, because both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party was for the war. I had no choice but to pursue the peace, the planet, and the people. And I did that. So when people tell you, well, you know, there's a vast difference between the Republicans and Democrats. Okay, let's start there. In the chats, I need y'all to sign off. Do you believe that America is a racist country? I would love to hear from each and every one of y'all to cast your ballots right now. Do you believe that America is a racist country? All right. Now, the top Black official in the Republican Party is Tim Scott, who actually has been in our studio. He denies that. He said America is not a racist country. Okay. The Democratic Party, the highest Black official in the Democratic Party is Kamala Harris. She has not been in our studio in Washington, D.C., and she's on records also denying that America is not a racist country. So you tell me, what is the difference? Because when it comes to their denial, when it comes to their foreign policy, they are two wings of the same board, okay? And the fact that someone will have the audacity to say that Israel is not a racist country, they have legal apartheid in Israel. Like that's crazy. But let's make sure that we are well equipped to have these arguments, because the revolution will happen around the dinner table. And I told you before, we act radio broadcasters on the radical side of Martin Luther King Avenue. So the quote from Martin Luther King. He says, men long regarded as political clowns have become elected officials, their magic achieved with a witch's brew of bigotry, prejudices, half-truths, and whole lies. I submit to you that is our do-nothing Congress. That is the makeup of our do-nothing Congress. And as Dr. Stein said, I'm representing the radical side of Martin Luther King Avenue in Washington, D.C. I'm espousing all of the things that got Martin Luther King killed. I'm not talking about the I Have a Dream speech King. I'm talking about the guy who later said that the dream had become a nightmare. I'm talking about King from 66 to 68. I'm rocking with that, because there's a monument here in Washington, D.C. to Martin Luther King's legacy. But did you know that they sandblasted and edited his quote on his own statue because it was a little bit too radical for the status quo to swallow? These are the things that we need to talk about. Dr. Stein alluded to the lack of voter representation in Washington, D.C. The nation's capital doesn't have voting rights. We are a plantation. We are a colony of the United States government. Taxation of representation. D.C. residents pay more in federal income taxes per capita than any other citizens, but yet we have no vote in Congress. So every other that's why my position is called delegate, not congressman, delegate, because I do not have a vote in Congress. But if we don't have a vote, then we should have a voice. And so I want to bring this type of radicalism to the space and making sure that our issues are being spoken to. Because the fact of the matter is, I got into the Green Party because I was trying to stop a war. Now I'm running in the Green Party because I'm trying to stop a genocide. And when I went to see my beloved Congresswoman, 87-year-old, 34-year incumbent, thinking that this sweet, nice old lady was going to sign her name to a ceasefire, she tells me that she's not ready for a ceasefire. Now, I didn't have the wherewithal in that moment to challenge her and say, well, where's your comfort level? How many people have to die for you to feel comfortable? I didn't do that. And I wrestled with that. And I looked at this lady and I realized that she had now become a gatekeeper for the status quo. And a lot of our people have become gatekeepers for the status quo. This is how it's always been. And this is the things that we need to change. And I need to make sure that everyone is politically mature enough to understand that injustice is anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Y'all gonna get sick of me. I quote King all day, okay? Because if DC doesn't have statehood, and We are paying more taxes than anybody else, and every other non-voting DC delegate comes from a territory that doesn't pay federal income taxes. We need to look at this not as a local issue in DC, but as the linchpin issue that could tip the balance of power in the entire country. How so? Because if DC were to become a state, theoretically, we would have two progressives going to Congress, and that would tip the stalemate that we have, because both parties benefit from pointing the finger of blame for not getting anything done. It's very childish. It's you, it's you, it's you. You look at Congress right now, there's name calling, mudslinging, nothing's getting done. It's time for us to flip tables like Jesus. We're at an inflection point. This is where we are. And I also want to give y'all this. A lot of the issues facing real Americans is the rent's too damn high, housing is not affordable, but no one should be paying more than 30% of their income in housing, including utilities. That's on the HUD's website. It's a guideline, but it's not a legal requirement. It's not enforced. That's something that needs to be addressed. Social housing. But in Israel, they have subsidized housing. A lot of people in this country is suffering under the weight of student loan debt. Now in Israel, they have subsidized education. A lot of people, the number one cause of bankruptcy in America, and Dr. Stein alluded to this because my sister died. She's no longer here because she too confused Obamacare with healthcare. So you can go to my Twitter page. It's on top of my page where I testified in Congress about that issue. I hope everyone can go check that out to understand and learn from the mistakes that my family made. But the number one cause of bankruptcy in America is medical debt. They have free healthcare in Israel. And all of those things are being subsidized by your taxpayer money. You are paying for all those things for another country to have that you don't have. These are the talking points that all of us should be aware of, that all of us bring to the table, and that all of us challenge the status quo on, because we are the ones that's going to change this system. And I will say this, I hope I don't get in trouble. I don't want to see any infighting among third-party people. You know, the last thing we want to be is start sound like our enemies and try to tell people who to vote for and how they should vote. You should vote your conscience. Whoever turns you on that reflects your views the best, that's who you vote for. It's just that the Green Party has the best infrastructure, the best ballot access, the best chance to making the best push to the left, as Beyonce would say, to the left. So I want us to make sure that we are excited, that we are amped, that we are encouraged, that we are inspired, that we know the wind is at our backs. And I don't know if you can see this picture over my shoulder here, but that is an artistic drawing of Stevie Wonder. And the reason why he is there, because I think we need to bring arts and culture into our campaign and stop all this dry stuff trying to look like them and put on corny suits and talk crazy. You know, be authentic. You know, now, yes, we do have to rise to the occasion, but we need to be authentic so we can speak the language that people understand. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people don't realize that Martin Luther King Day, the national holiday, celebrate Martin Luther King, was brought to fruition because Stevie Wonder, out of his own pocket, through a national tour, promoting it, lobbying it, going around the country to garner support for it. Stevie Wonder did that, okay? He did that. So when you hear the birthday song, that's Martin Luther King's song. Happy birthday to you. All right. I'm sorry. You gotta give me a second because Stevie Wonder and I share the same birthday. So, and mine's just passed. And ironically, I am now the same age that Eleanor Holmes Norton was when she went to Congress. So I think it's apropos. So let me close by a quote by Stevie Wonder to get us on the good foot here. And this is what Stevie Wonder had to say as a phone call comes in to interrupt my Stevie Wonder quote. Sorry about that, guys. As fate will have it, give me just a second here. Pull this quote back up. All right. This is what Stevie Wonder had to say. Life has meaning only in the struggle. Triumph or defeat is in the hands of the gods. So let us celebrate the struggle. And I think that everyone here can attest that we are here to celebrate the struggle on behalf of the people, the planet, and for peace. And I'm honored to be associated with the Green Party under the leadership of Dr. Stein. And I hope that everyone in the sound of our voices will garner as much support from their friends and their families, because the revolution takes place across the dinner table, and give us the support that we need. If you would like to support my campaign, please do what you can at Freeman, the number 4, Congress.com. June 4th is the primary in Washington, D.C. Our kickoff is then. I'm already on the ballot, and I will be on in the general election on November the 5th. Always remember the 5th of November. And I hope to see many of us celebrating victories as we try to save this planet and move forward to the left, to the left. Thank you.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kymone. We are so incredibly blessed to have such a powerhouse group of candidates here that are going all out, pulling out all the stops here as we face these converging crises of crushing inequality, climate collapse, endless war, the assault on our democracy. And we got solutions. We not only have solutions, but we got the values of the American people and their incredible hunger for what we do. So you all are just leading the charge. I can't thank you enough. We've gone over on our time here. We're about at the time to wrap up, but you were all so compelling. I could not bear to stop listening. So I'd like to ask the listeners here, the participants, if you would stay on for about 10 more minutes, and let's take a few questions, which you can direct to one candidate or to all. If we do all, we probably have time to do like one round, maybe 1 or 2 rounds. So let me see if we have, if people want to put their questions into the chat, we can take 1 or 2 here. If you want to throw up some questions quickly. All right, let's see. So I'm going to rattle off, I think, just a couple of questions and let you choose what you would like to respond to. I think, let's see, one of our speakers actually gave some thoughts about dealing with the spoiler question, but let's just do a quick go around on the spoiler, because it's, I think it's something that all of us are challenged with, and it's just really good to hear how each of us responds to that. So, you know, I feel like everyone has something good to say here. If you want to pass, feel free to do that. But otherwise, I'm just going to kind of do a roll call, a lightning round here if you can. So maybe we can take one more round of questions after this. But do you want to, Jason, you want to start us off? How do you respond to spoiler? Give us your less than 1 minute lightning response here.
Well, Ross Perot spoiled the election for whoever Bill Clinton was running against, George Bush the first. Ross Perot was certainly a spoiler for him. No, there is no such thing as a spoiler in an election in my mind. Votes are earned; they are not owed. And you know, when it comes right down to it, this country has moved so far to the right that unless we really put our feet down and demand change, then we're never going to get it. We're just going to keep going towards the right. So all the people who say, you know, it's going to take us further to the right, further to the right, further to the right. You know what? Democrats are taking us further to the right also. We need to push back, and pushing back means voting for our actual principles and not out of fear.
Okay, Michael, do you want to jump in? Give us a quick thought. Don't feel like you need to be comprehensive, but just give us a thought. How do you respond to a spoiler?
Yeah, I'd say there's no such thing. And when people say they vote for the lesser of two evils, I say that's still evil. And you know, instead of, you know, holding your nose and voting for somebody that you think is the lesser of two evil, vote for what you believe in and hold your head high, because your vote doesn't belong to anybody. It's your vote. Too many people have died to, you know, give you the right to vote. And so that's what I preach. And I tell people, I go street level on them. I said that spoiler argument is an okie doke. They're trying to get your mind off of the real issues and to take away your power by making you afraid to vote a certain way and vote in your conscience.
And Chester, you want to give us your thoughts?
Real simple. How can you be a spoiler in a democracy? That's almost impossible. My thoughts and my vote is just as, or should be considered just like anyone else. Very substantial, and that's all I tell them. That's impossible. It's my right to express.
Great. All right. I'm going to just introduce another question here and let anyone who hasn't responded already jump in. Thomas Risley says, I'm an Oregon voter concerned with housing, wildfires, water. What are your priorities on those issues, which are all, all crises unto themselves? Justin, you want to jump in? That's housing, wildfires, and water.
Yeah, well, housing, we have, major investment banks buying up all kinds of housing and raising the prices and making profit from doing so. And we need to step in as the public and make sure that there is affordable housing and that people have a right to housing. And we need to just ensure that. And the same that they have a right to clean water. And we can do that. And when it comes to wildfires, of course, we need to take the climate crisis seriously, which we have not been doing. And just to throw in that lesser evil voting has not been doing that. We have, lesser evil voting has allowed the Democratic Party to become so corrupt that they're not addressing the climate crisis or the housing crisis or any of these things. And we need to start voting our values, as others have said, and we need ranked choice voting like they have in Maine and like they have in Alaska, so that more people cannot be coerced into this fear of the greater evil into voting for the Democratic Party, because that party has their brand is destroyed, and people who have lost faith in the Democratic Party, either they stop voting or they are turning towards Trumpism and authoritarianism. Or they can do the right thing and vote green and change this country.
Great, terrific. Anyone else want to jump in on housing, wildfires, water?
I wanted to say, Chibu, yes. Illinois has actually been experiencing more and more severe droughts the last couple of years, which has been daunting as someone who's in the Midwest, and we're just all the seasons. And so thinking about forest fires and what's happening, particularly in Oregon and like Hawaii and California, the United States federal government needs to be held responsible and more so center the well-being of its citizens. And so actually one of the things that I want to see happen is make the federal government a fiduciary, have a fiduciary responsibility to the people that pay for us and live here, which would mean prioritizing preventative care for forest fires, making sure that we're being resilient agriculture, as well as even for the house insurance. I've been seeing thinking like even more forward thinking, we have to consider making sure that we have a more affordable housing rather than like luxury housing that's being held dormant. So those are all things I do think that the federal government can incentivize, and whose job it literally is to do so.
Awesome. And for those who haven't had a chance to chime in yet, let me throw out another question for you. And that is, what is the first thing you will advocate for in Congress to shut down this genocide?
Okay, I'll go first. We need to register AIPAC as a foreign agent. We need to stop all foreign aid to Israel. End of story.
Great.
We'll go for that.
Great.
For DC, our slogan is taxation or representation. There should be no representation, no taxes. The fact is that the vast majority of people in this country, both Democrat and Republican, agreed that we should have a ceasefire. But our representatives do not reflect that support. And so I think that will drive the wedge home, because we need to have a war tax resistance if we're going to put a wedge in the system. They're not responding to anything else.
Has everyone had a first response on the questions? Has anybody not spoken? Okay, then I want to throw out one other question for everyone. And that is, do you have any thoughts about what we can do now, by raising the challenge that each of us are raising by running for office? We're pushing the envelope, we're expressing the views of the American people. We are creating a threat, the threat that Frederick Douglass said we must have in order to move power. Power concedes nothing, without a demand, without a threat. We must be that demand and represent a threat to power if you're ever going to move power. What can we do now to push the envelope on Gaza and stopping this genocide, which has become like a genocide on steroids now, just watching every day the news on Rafah and the massacres that just keep rolling out. Do you have thoughts about, what we should be doing now to really push the envelope to try to shut this down? Feel free, anybody, to
if your representative is having a town hall, show up and register your outrage and make sure you get heard. Register your outrage publicly, loudly, and that's one thing that we can do. Just be vocal, visible, and speak out as much as you can. And stand with those who are standing up against the genocide. Show up at the protests. Show up at the encampments. And just tell your representative that you're not going to vote for them because of their support for this genocide. Let it be known. Let everybody know the same, and we just have to hold them accountable in every way we can.
Great.
I think we're at a war of information. I may be jaded because my line of work that we at Grail is information, but the majority of people do not know the things that has been subsidized in Israel. They do not know, the majority of people. I think just by educating them to that will get people up in arms. Malcolm X says, it's hard to get people organized around a specific issue when the people have to be awakened first. We have to wake the people up. We're talking about stay woke. They need to get woke. We need to shake them and wake them up to understand the realities, because Americanism, American individualism gets us, and because, it's such a hard way to live. Most of us are so much in a survival mode. We don't have the bandwidth to entertain or have empathy for those people. But when we realize how our bottom lines are being affected, I think we will get some of the support that this issue deserves.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to chime in?
I try to push the idea to people that you have blood on your hands. When you go, I don't care who you are, if you're a taxpayer, you have blood on your hand if you're not speaking up to end this genocide. Before we go, I just want to thank Brother Freeman, because you brought forth something that was very important that I didn't see, that we are funding here, people in Israel getting free amenities, and we're funding that, and we're not getting those. Thank you so much. I use that in my campaign.
Great.
You're welcome, Big Papa.
Thank you. Anyone else? Chibu.
Yeah, I do. I want to say if you're not a protest girly, if you're someone who's learning, a lot of the people in my community are learning about these things. Like Kymone said, it's still new. So accept that that's okay and that you're not alone in that. And then talk about it with your friends, talk about it with the people around you. You'd be truly surprised how many people feel the same way that you're feeling, feel the same kind of despair, and talking through it with another human, particularly in the United States, has been extremely helpful, cathartic, and life-giving. So that way, and then don't be afraid to, maybe you do actually start feeling like you need to go to a rally, so it's okay. I would say that if you aren't a protest girly right now, in a month, if you are, that's like, accept that and then keep going, keep teaching yourself. Because I think in America, the privilege is sometimes we don't know, but if you do know, then go be great.
Great. Anyone else want to
Yeah,
jump in?
I say stay active in the movement. We had an action in Raleigh tonight. If I wasn't here, I would probably be there. And so, staying actively engaged in that, and we're bringing together coalitions, not just with the pro-Palestinian people, but for unions, workers, housing. We're pulling all of those different groups together, and that's been very effective. And educating people. I talked to many people from the time I started going to protests. I had people walk up to me and say, as a Black man, why are you involved in this? And so many people don't know the history of it. They don't know about Malcolm. They don't know about, the Black Panthers, all those going over to Palestine. They don't know that. So this has been an opportunity to teach. And as Chibu said, tell your family, tell your friends, and they'll tell someone else. And that's how we continue to, make this movement grow.
Awesome. Anybody else want to chime in here? And I'll just add that, really important for us to just remember that, like, mainstream media and our politicians, are telling us that we're like the domestic terrorists here for exercising our constitutional rights, for protesting, for using free speech, for what? To reflect what the majority of the American people already feel. Reflecting what the highest court on the planet, the International Court of Justice and the World Criminal Court, we're saying what they're saying, and they're trying to criminalize us and assault us for doing this. It's really important to remember the words of Alice Walker, that the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. And it's all about acting with the courage of our convictions. And there is, discussion now that's you begin to hear percolating about organizing for a one-day strike. We've seen recently the power of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, BDS, to really hurt Starbucks, with an international boycott that they're feeling all around the world right now. And that really demonstrates that we have economic power. We not only have people power, we have economic power, the power of young people and students who are rising up, but we also have economic power. And for us to conduct a one-day strike, which would be, hopefully we can get some unions on board. There is a union already, a chapter of the United Auto Workers that represents the graduate student teachers, the graduate student instructors in the University of California system, which involves 48,000 people. We've seen many unions support a ceasefire. It would be really nice to see people support, if not a one-day strike, maybe it's a one-day sick out or something, but to start encouraging that conversation now about using our power. We have economic power and we badly need to use it, because people are being slaughtered and massacred and there is no end in sight. And we've seen the UN and the World Court and the Criminal Court do what they can. And Israel is not responding. Israel is a nuclear power. It's going to be very hard to force the hand of Israel, except through boycott and sanctions and divestment. And this is a power that we have, and to begin, flexing those muscles, I think is a really exciting idea. So at any rate, with that, I think we will wrap, because it's been quite an evening. It's been really awesome to sit here and listen to this powerhouse group of candidates that you are. It is such an honor to be running with you and for you, and to be telling people, who I get the question all the time on the campaign trail, how are you going to actually make stuff happen? Let's say you're in the White House. Well, there's a lot you can do with executive power, for one thing, but for the other is that if there's a grassroots movement to put our campaign in the White House, there's a grassroots movement to put you guys also into Congress and the Senate. And I'm so excited about what we can do together. And however far we get, it is a huge jumping off point. we're not going back. Empire, is doubling down right now, and its days are numbered. I think it
Yes.
knows that, which is why it is bringing down the hammer right now on its opponents. It is running scared. The world is in rebellion against the empire right now. The opponents of the actions of the US are bringing Russia and China together, and they have the BRICS alliance right now, which has greater economic power than the US and its allies do. So, the foundations of power have fundamentally shifted. And power is shifting in the US. The empire is not going to go lightly, not away from the genocide and not away from its crisis here at home, the price that we pay for a military system, which is effectively genocidal. We are endangered and impoverished by what empire does, and our democracy, faces rising fascism, and we don't have to wait for Donald Trump to face fascism. It is here right now. We're seeing it on our campuses. We're seeing it, coming down on the heads of peaceful protesters all over the country, and in the, in the 70 or so cop cities that are being constructed around the country as well as in, the dirty tricks that the Democratic Party plays, by the way. I think we need, in the Green Party, I think we need a special committee to support campaigns, to be able to respond to dirty tricks and sabotage, which is out there. The Democrats have been advertising recently for employment, for basically people to infiltrate our campaigns. So it's there, it's happening big time. This is what the empire will do, but we are an unstoppable force, and our time has come. This is inevitable. It's inevitable. The question is when, and the stronger and more organized we are, the sooner it's going to happen. And we could not have a more gifted, inspired, and compelling set of candidates to be running with. So thank you. Everybody support these campaigns, and let's build the party. Tell all your friends about these amazing candidates, and let's demand the future that we deserve, an America and a world that works for all of us. Thank you all so very much. Power to the people. Thank you.
Power to the
Thank
people.
you, Greens. Power to people, planet, and peace over profit. Thank you all so very much.
Peace.
Thank you, guys. Blessings.
Blessings to you all.
Your blessing to everybody.